This episode of the SwitchCast is produced by Trevor Bond, our honored patron, and Armor-Clad Switch Knight.
Wait, hold on. I need a burp.
Hey everybody, I'm KC.
And I'm JV.
And this is the SwitchCast, the podcast for the Nintendo Switch enthusiast. And we are here to talk to you all about the games, the news, the crazy events that we have going on for the Nintendo Switch right here. And thank you for joining us all. We got a lot of stuff to talk about this week, and I can't wait to dig into it all.
Oh yeah, lots of competition results and competitions to come. I'm really excited that we were finally able to finish the Switch Cup for Mario Kart, KC.
Yes, we have a final winner for the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
It's been a long time running, or long time coming, and yeah, go ahead and announce who it is.
All right, well, yeah, just to dive right into that, we have the winner, Pedro RVD, and I can't wait to send him the NES Classic just to kind of set the example, show people we mean business. When we run a contest, we're giving out some good prizes. We want to see you guys play, have fun, and we're going to give you some rewards that are worth it. But we're not even skipping a beat. This is already, so barely have time for Pedro to finish his celebratory champagne, and we're already going to start kicking off and rolling into the next contest that we have planned in our heads here.
I feel like I want to give Pedro just a bit of a moment to thank him.
Go ahead, fine. Yes. Let him.
All right, Pedro, here's your moment. You deserve this. You were the best Mario Kart 8 player in our community. Represent whenever you play Mario Kart 8 everywhere else. Just know that you kicked butt at the Switch Cup.
And he's the very first Switch Cup winner of any of our contests. This is kind of this is kind of historic if you think about it. I mean...
Oh, yeah. Pedro is going to be known in history as the first Switch Cup champion.
Yeah, and because when Switch Cup becomes like the esport organization around the world that's known for Switch competition, everyone's going to know. Like, we're practically going to have like a golden bust of him set up outside of the our headquarters that I picture that's designed like the Justice League. This is all the things in my head.
He is the pioneer for all Switch Cup champions to come.
But everybody else played awesome games. Honestly, I got to check out because I know that Shell Shock, he put some live stream some of it and put it on YouTube, and it was really exciting to watch. We didn't really have too many problems. It was fun. Everybody who did it just did it for fun. So we've kind of worked out any possible kinks for future things. So definitely have learned some lessons along the way, and we promise to make any future ones even smoother. And speaking of the future ones, I think it's time to just come out and announce the next one, because you know what? I don't want to let this game get any further out of our mindset than it is. And I feel like we have Splatoon. It's coming. Splatoon tournament's coming. But we're going to have 1 week. We're going to try to get ARMS back into the forefront here.
Whoa. Yes. ARMS tournament next time. I believe this one is just going to be a single-day tournament as well. So yes, it won't even be a long-running league. It's something we could get going, get real furious with, and play in one go. Yeah,
so I'm going to announce the date for it right now. I'm going to shoot for August 19th. So that is next Saturday. Not this Saturday coming, next Saturday. And I'm going to shoot for 7 p.m. Eastern. So people need to know in advance because that's the most even time. I know we had some people who played in the last tournament that were in the UK, and they were like, "Ooh, that's really stretching it. That's like midnight for me." And at the same time, we had people in like California that were like, "Well, that's the middle of the day for me on a Saturday, and I don't want to be home playing." So I had a 7 o'clock. Kind of works out the most medium that you still can participate. And if it's a Saturday night, people are a little more willing to stay up at midnight on, across the pond to partake.
Right. So that's 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Pacific time. So
I will be posting a link in the Facebook group and on Twitter this weekend for the sign-up sheet. So if you're hearing this, there will be a sign-up sheet. It probably won't be up as soon as this podcast is up. I'm just going to, compose another little Survey Monkey thing, but you can go and you'll find the link posted. So if you're not on one of our social media, you are highly encouraged to follow us there, because if you join the Facebook or the Twitter, that's the best way to find the link to the sign up for this competition.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see this one because it's head-to-head combat, one-on-one, furious fighting. Lots of fun. It's going to be great. It's
going to be nice, straightforward. It's going to be, you're going to play a couple of matches. I'll debate between round robin or just single elimination tournament. Maybe just keep it super straightforward and just do an elimination tournament like that. I'll make those decisions before I post that there. So that'll be that. And for the prizes of that, we're just going to have a couple of items that have been provided to us by HDE, some little accessories, and we'll probably pick out 2 or 3 items from what they've sent us as promotional giveaway stuff that the first prize winner will get the first pick of, and then the second and or third will get a pick of the litter after that.
Yes, it's honestly a bunch of really cool stuff, so I'm excited to give these out to you winners. It'll be great.
Why don't we shift over and go into the game time and talk about all the things we got our hands on this week.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so game time, I really want to talk about the thing that a lot of people played with this weekend. I know we've talked about Splatoon 2 a lot this couple of weeks, but it's just been very hype. But there was a lot of interesting stuff with the SplatFest this weekend. We got to finally partake. Both of us, it's our first SplatFest, but I feel like it was the first real SplatFest.
Oh, absolutely. Game. All the other SplatFests in the past have been practice for this coming SplatFest, or this previous SplatFest. It was ketchup versus mayonnaise, which honestly was surprisingly divisive.
Yeah, I'm honestly, look, there's been people who were disgusted by my love of mayonnaise in the past, but never before have people treated me like an enemy of the state because of it.
And I feel like this is just going to be a recurring thing for all Splatfests to come. It's just really fun to be able to antagonize your friends over something so trivial.
That's the thing. It is so trivial. And there was a lot of actual, what's the word I'm looking for? Not conspiracy, but drama kind of around the results.
Rigged.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Rigged.
They obviously pick a competition. They pick sides based on things that have no bearing on anyone's skill level. It's not like they picked, are you a professional marksman or, are you a baker, right? And you pick one of those things. And obviously professional marksmen are going to win the first person shooter tournament or something like that, right?
Right. And they were also 2 topics that didn't really have any ties to political or any controversial topics
or age, it's not like, they're anything that would really be a skill difference. So I expect almost any Splatfest like that to be about a 50-50 split. If the actual win ratio was any bigger than 60-40, then I would say something's really weird. But the fact that all the competitions, it was a margin of 52% to 48% at most, seems like everything kind of worked out as intended. Anything bigger than 5 or 10% is when you could start to say, something must be fishy with how it was run.
Well, I believe people's primary concern with the results of the previous Splatfest was that there was a really large majority of ketchup players as opposed to Mayo players. And because of that huge discrepancy, a lot of ketchup players fought each other. And a bunch of those people didn't really feel like they were contributing that much to their score despite how good they were performing in the games that they were playing.
The flip side of that is for every team that's in a catch-up that feels like they were performing well, there's a team that wasn't performing well. So it obviously evens out in that regard. But the main thing was you were always earning points towards your rank. And the final rank is how many snails you got, which actually turned out to be, I did not realize how useful those snails are as a prize.
Oh, absolutely. That's why there's a real incentive to participate in these Splatfests.
Right.
You want those snails as much as possible.
Did you reach Ketchup King?
Yes.
Yeah, I got to be a Mayo Queen, and I got, and the only difference for the side winning was I got 23 snails, and I believe you got 20 snails.
Which honestly isn't that big of a difference.
Right, exactly.
So there's,
exactly.
I don't feel like there's a reason to be so vitriolic about it, but I can understand the Ketchup side's concern regarding, it doesn't necessarily feel good to have the perception that your games don't mean anything.
Right. I mean, I guess, you want to feel like you're fighting, but I can't think of a good solution for that. If that, already the popularity vote already counts for 1/3 of the win condition. So I can't think of, and they obviously try to pick topics that should be close to 50-50, but obviously this one wasn't. So it's kind of hard to see what other way they could do to, better accommodate players who are on this like vast majority team.
Just to sum that whole situation up, it's Ketchup versus Mayo. Ketchup was very popular compared to Mayo.
75% to 25%.
Huge discrepancy. And then because of that difference, the Ketchup people played against each other a lot, and then the Mayo people just, I guess, a lot of their heavy hitters had their games count more.
Well, see, that's a leap. Their heavy hitters, I mean, it's everybody on Team Mayo is always playing. And if you assume that both teams have the same proportion of skill, right? Like 10% are really good, 10% stink, and like 80% are in the middle, there's no reason to believe that our 10% good were not also playing like a proportion of the much bigger good pool that you had to pull from.
Right. That's the thing. We don't know that percentage of players. If Ketchup is just that much more popular, maybe the people who are really hardcore gamers in Splatoon would want to play Mayo because they would have more of a chance to fight against the masses of the Ketchup players. This is all incredibly theoretical, and it's just so difficult for Nintendo to possibly balance a system like this. There's so many factors.
Again, though, the winning percentages were 51% Team Mayo in solo, 52% in team games. That is a margin of error that is probably even accountable to random chance. So I see no reason to believe there is any imbalance in the way it is handled. Unless if it was like 60% Mayo or more, then I could say maybe that's a statistically significant variation to then warrant suspicion. But 52 to 48 is like, that's rolling a die.
In that case, there's a couple people out there who are concerned that those numbers are fudged to make it seem like there's a bit more equivalence between the two sides. And that's honestly something that we can't possibly know as consumers.
That is a baseless accusation. I will not entertain them here on this show, sir.
Well, we have to acknowledge that they exist.
I acknowledge that they exist, but I will not entertain them. I will let them come into my house. They can have some water and crackers, but I will not let them watch Seinfeld on my TV.
Either way, I honestly had a ton of fun in Splatfest. Yes. Regardless of the end result, I just loved how hyped up people are for each side, and I never knew I cared about Ketchup as much as I did.
I was impressed with the presentation in game, how the whole Inkopolis Square converted to the music festival, and they had Pearl and Marina performing the video on the stage up there, and even how those characters, like the NPCs, instead of having just those little pop-up windows with the pictures that people drew, they would be holding them as banners and stuff.
It's honestly a really nice way to change up the feel of the hub world.
Yeah.
And that kind of adds to the hype of the SplatFest experience.
Yeah, it made it feel like something I don't want to miss, and it made me feel like, oh, this is something special. You know, I should really enjoy this while I can.
Right. And man, it's fun, and I'm excited to see how everyone's going to get hyped up about these Splatfests in the future, because I played Splatoon 1. I played Splatfests back in that game, and honestly, it didn't feel nearly as hype as it is on the Switch for some reason.
Yeah. Did they have presentation like that in the Wii U version?
I mean, it didn't really feel like it. The hub world didn't change that much, and it honestly just felt like another standard game mode. In this, they really just went for it and wanted to make you feel like this is an actual festival going on.
Oh, right. I totally forgot how you actually were firing mayo and ketchup as your ink in the battles.
Yeah, honestly, that was a little gross.
Oh, it was delicious. I loved it. It's so awesome to like be swimming around in a pool of mayonnaise.
Mayo. I think you have a bit of a mayo fixation, Casey. You might want to get that checked.
Should I go to the Mayo Clinic?
No. You should catch up on your vaccines, possibly. Anyway, I really want to make sure that we keep all this hype going in the future. So any Splatfests that come out, we can really hype that up in our community and get a little bit of friendly trash talk going.
Yeah. I mean, everyone in the chat changed their names to something ketchup or mayo related, which was really hilarious, just to show your colors right off the bat.
Yeah. I was Ketchup V.
And I was Mayo C.
Yeah. And it was really fun. And I'm sure this type of stuff is gonna happen again in the future.
Yes, very much. I'm looking forward to the next one now. I'm really I want to see how these go in the future, and I want to see if there is any kind of correlation with the less popular team winning, as some people have told me in the past, or if that's just a misperception that people have. So I want to see what the trend is down the line.
Yeah, let's leave that particular aspect to the future, since we want to be able to notice trends over continuous Splatfests.
Yeah. But I can't wait to use those snails and start hyping up my equipment, because I got some good plans for them now.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, we have been playing a few other games this week, and I definitely think it's a great time to start talking about what you've been digging into.
Yeah, so I actually hopped into Retro City Rampage DX.
For destruction.
Yeah, so honestly, I was expecting a game similar to the original top-down Grand Theft Auto games, Casey.
Okay, yeah.
But instead, I got a top-down shooter similar to the Saints Row series, with a gobsmack of pop culture references to it.
Really? Is it all like text, or is there like voice chat and acting in it?
It's completely 8-bit, and it's supposed to harken to the NES era.
Gotcha.
But, Grand Theft Auto has its own sense of ridiculousness and kookiness to it. But if you guys have ever played a Saints Row game, it gets so out there and wild. There's space and superheroes and lots of shooting and inappropriate weaponry.
And great 80s music. I will say one of my favorite scenes in gaming history is one of the last missions in Saints Row 4?
Three?
I think it
3.
Third, yeah, where you're I'm flying off to save somebody, and they start playing do 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 do. I need a hero, and that whole song plays, and I was just like, this is so cheesy, but it's so awesome. I hate how awesome I think this cheesiness is, and that's
yes, and that is the feel of Retro City Rampage, but on a top-down 8-bit level.
Okay, cool.
This game is bonkers, and it's it's quite a bit of fun. So For history's sake, apparently Retro City Rampage was an old NES homebrew game that they turned into a full-fledged game. And on the DX version, they upgraded that on the 3DS, and now it's on the Switch.
Cool.
Yeah, it controls pretty similarly to the GTA 1 and 2 games, though you actually can control shots like a twin-stick shooter with the right joystick.
Okay.
And they even included a cover system in the game, so you can hide behind walls, kind of like in a third-person shooter like Gears of War. It honestly feels a bit clunky, but it's not something I really relied on too much. It was just interesting that it was in there.
Is there a storyline that is tied to the action going on here?
Absolutely. Like right from the get-go, you can go into story mode, and it starts you off, and you're going like 80 miles per hour, blazing through the story that's going on in this game. So, and there's a whirlwind of things to do in this game right from the get-go, since you're essentially thrown into a large town called Theftropolis. And right from off the bat, you go in and just are thrown into a heist. And it's hard to explain.
Is it open world, or are you like following missions in a very set order?
So if you're doing story mode, you're tethered to missions from the start, and then you can go on different missions as you explore. But Casey, I started the game, and as soon as I booted it up, immediately there was a reference to GTA, then Mega Man, then Duck Hunt, then Batman, then Mario, then Frogger, then Contra, then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, then Doctor Who, then Back to the Future, all within the first 5 minutes.
Real gamer's game, man.
Yeah. Honestly, this game is bread and butter are its 8-bit graphics, its chiptunes, and so many references. Like, there's a couple that are subtle, like you can see signs up that are references to different things that you know of, but most of them are just so blatant, they slap you in the face with them. I don't want to spoil any specific references, but they really vary from jokey signs to sudden events referencing a classic movie or game that shifts the gameplay to whatever they're referencing.
Okay, cool. Now, what kind of missions are we going on here? You said like heists and stuff. So is it like, is there a lot of in-building kind of stuff like that too? Or is it heavy on the driving kind of action like GTA is generally?
Yes. So there is building, or there's movement where you move and shoot cops or whoever your target is. A lot of it is moving around in a car or vehicle and driving around to do what you need to do and go to places where you need to go. But it's essentially like a GTA Saints Row clone, so you can completely ignore that aspect of the game and just wreak havoc on everyone.
Is there a lot of vehicle options?
Of course there are. You can pretty much steal vehicles, but they're 8-bit vehicles. They don't really feel all that different.
Okay.
Though, you're continuously playing missions if that's the route you want to take with this game. And I gotta say, some of the missions can be a bit difficult.
All right, so the difficulty does pick up. How far are you into it?
I played about 3 hours into it, and I feel like it's probably coming... Like, if I go through the story mission, it'll probably give me about another 4 hours or so.
Okay.
Yeah, whenever you're playing the missions, some of them can become unforgivingly frustrating.
Wow, really?
Like there can be a point where the game is trying to reference another game that's annoyingly difficult, and the difficulty spikes so high because of that joke. And while it's kind of funny in the beginning, if once you try to go through that, you face that difficulty constantly, these difficulties can lead to instant failures, which force you to start the mission over again, and the jokes can get really old after that. So while the references are quite fun and almost like to the point of like meme repetition, it just comes in a big stream of references back to back to back. That's an exciting aspect of it, but it's something that can also hinder the game design of it as well.
Now, is it fun to not do the missions? Like, is this like GTA in that you think that even if, let's say, you beat the game, are you going to just futz around with this and just explore and just have fun wreaking havoc around the city? Does it feel like that's there?
Right. If you enjoy being a psychopath and just killing little 8-bit dudes, this is a sandbox game that you can definitely enjoy.
Okay, that's what makes your money's worth for these games usually.
Right, exactly. If you love Grand Theft Auto style games that are top down, that let you go hog wild with whatever you want to do, this is the game for you. It might be a great way to let off some steam and just wrecking dudes.
It's the only reason I ever bought the GTA 3 originally. I just needed, it was a great game just to turn on and blow stuff up for a while. And even though that game made me feel remorse, I just can't help but feel like it was almost too realistic. Saints Row I always preferred because it's so ridiculous that I don't feel the remorse because it's just this weird, wacky, superhero-y world.
Right, and this definitely goes towards the Saints Row mood of the game. It doesn't take itself quite as seriously as Grand Theft Auto. Or you know what? It doesn't take itself at all seriously. Okay, that's good. Like, there are moments of seriousness in Grand Theft Auto. There's none of that in this.
Okay, very cool, very cool.
None of the killing or none of the shots seem too graphic. There's not really any big blood splatters or grotesque sounds. It's all incredibly cartoony, and from there, there's really not that much else to it.
Cool.
Ultimately, the story feels a bit short, and while I haven't really finished it myself, I don't really feel like the story is something that you're going into this game for necessarily. Mm-hmm. You're really going into this game for the ability to hop into an open world 8-bit environment, listen to some kick butt chip tunes, and wreak havoc in a city. Yeah, the music is good. And yeah, if you just want to wreak havoc in a Saints Row style top-down shooter, this is the game to get.
Awesome, very cool. I'm tempted to try that, or I might just I'm probably just gonna wait for the the Hawaii one.
Yeah, it's definitely you definitely have to consider how much patience you have for constant references, because I can see how it can be grating to some people.
Yeah, or you just don't get them maybe if you're not like a long-time gamer maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a lot of what people find enjoyable about this game. So if it's something that annoys you and if you see a really forced references, it can be a bit of a groaner. So, it just measure how frenetic and non sequitur you can be and your sense of humor can be, and that'll help gauge your level of enjoyment for this.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Going on from there, I actually I took the time this week. I decided to finish off Cave Story Plus. I held on to it long enough.
Oh, you actually finished it.
I got the final best ending that I've been trying to get for, like I said, I played the game many, many years ago, and I got the good ending, but the one where it's like, I don't know, I feel like something's missing. And apparently in the Switch version, they actually included something inside the case. It had a piece of paper that you could decipher. I think you had to hold up to a mirror or something. And it has all the information you need to get the best ending. Because as I said, it's a little obtuse. But it did unlock a lot of it is more than just getting a different ending doing this stuff. They know that you've probably beaten the game already, and they know that this is your second run through it probably, and that you're dedicated to the cause. So they change up the final challenges of the game, because you still fight the same last bosses, but if you do the last final thing you need to do to get the best ending, you go through this entirely different labyrinth at the end that's basically hell. It's called the Bloody Sanctuary, but it's like there's a sign as soon as you enter there called Welcome to Hell, and it starts out with this gauntlet of just death traps where if you don't perfectly maneuver, you fall into spikes and die, and you have to survive all these impossible looking jumps. And then you have to go through this long corridor with hundreds of monsters, things falling down, just crazy hectic stuff. And then you have to fight 4 bosses in a row, and you can't die once this entire time. If you die, that's it. Start over at the beginning of this labyrinth, because Yeah, you're not lead enough. There's no save points once you get into this.
Yeah, that sounds like a really intense experience, and I'm assuming they really just stuck it in there in order to appease those hardcore Cave Story players.
Well, I mean, this was part of the original game. This was a thing that was...
okay.
No, this isn't new. This is just something that's in the game originally. But again, yeah, he made it for the people who took the time to figure out that secret ending. But it's worth it. And I gotta say, not only for the last bosses and the intensity that I was panting, but the way they weave in the story, like, you know, just not to spoil anything too much, but the whole main crux of this ending is saving the one character that didn't have to die in the main storyline. It's like your Aerith of this game, you know?
Oh, wow.
And you can save them, and they actually will join up with you for the final fights in this game in a really awesome way. And it feels cool and very gratifying. And I was panting at the end of the ball. When I finally beat that last boss, I was like breathing super heavy with relief at how much intense the end of this game was.
Right, so I didn't actually realize just how unforgiving that last section you're referring to is. Yes. I've definitely heard about it. I've heard about this gauntlet that you have to go through for the best ending, but I didn't realize that it started you from the beginning if you died.
Yes, it's a really epic moment of teaming up for this final fight and the final real foe that you have to come across in this ending.
Hearing stories like this really inspire me to get into the game.
Yeah. Now, if I had bought this game, I did rent it. Had I bought it, I probably would start diving into the challenge modes, because the challenges, I did dive into them a little bit. I unlocked a bunch from beating the game this way, and they are all very long, and they are all very challenging as well in different ways. Some of them are timed, some of them are boss rushes. They have a lot of variety, and that's what will keep you playing. Because this is still a short game. Like I said, I beat this again this week in about 7 days. And so someone who buys this game will probably want something more. And those challenge modes, I think, will provide you with plenty of extra little things to get your money's worth out of it.
So that's,
again, if you're going to go to that hardcore level of this game.
Yeah, so that's a little bit of extra replayability that you can eke out of this game.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
All these new stages, they're all original stages, the challenge modes. They're all different levels that were designed new and fresh. Oh, and they finally did release the graphics pack that I mentioned, where you could play the game with the retro, like the original graphics.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did turn that on, but now I was kind of spoiled by the new graphics, and I was like, I'm used to these now. This is what I'm used to. I can't go back to the old ones now. So
yes,
I guess they won me over.
Bring yourself into the future, Casey.
Yeah. But speaking of old school graphics, I did start a new game today. I picked up Phantom Trigger. That's the new game from Tiny Build, and these are the people who did Mr. Shifty.
Okay.
And this one is a little more... It's another game where it's like a top-down action game where you fight lots of, enemies, but this is in a weird... It's really hard to explain. It's like a cyber alien world with, I don't know.
Is it cyberpunky?
I want to say it's more surreal fantasy. Like,
okay.
You're fighting like guys with TV heads and monsters that slam their faces to create lava spurts and all sorts of weird things. And you have a laser whip and an ice sword, and you get these fire gauntlets and all these kind of weapons, and they all look amazing when you start shooting them off. And what I like about this game, though, is, and I'm going to be very careful about what I say, because what I liked about it so far is finding out what the heck's going on, because it's telling a story in a very mysterious way, and that you just literally start off, you're some guy on a boat and you land into this weird world and you don't know what you're doing there, but they keep flashing back to another story in like the real world that ties into this. So there's something, yeah. And as you're going through the game, you keep having these flashbacks, and again, I won't say what it is, but a lot of the other things they don't explain either. Like, you'll start just using these weapons as you pick them up. And you also have that teleporty power, very Mr. Shifty-like. Like you could jump around. You can't go through objects, but you can't go through objects, but you can like jump past enemies and stuff. But what you start realizing as you start using them is certain combinations. You start casting weird spells here and there. So like I was playing it with just the weapons as is for a while. And then I just accidentally, through some combination of buttons, I cast some weird spell that summoned like an ice pillar. And there's nothing in the game to tell me, or at least nothing that's obviously telling me how I did that or why I could do that now. But you start piecing together. If you just like look at the menu screens and you start tinkering around stuff, you start discovering your powers, but they don't really do anything to tell you about this stuff. And even if you ignored it, you'd probably be fine. But they let you kind of like feel like you are discovering what you can do as you play. And it's really interesting. It's and there's a lot of these powers that I've just discovered accidentally. Sometimes I just was exploring the menus and I saw this little weird glyphs and I'm like, I wonder if that's telling me how to do a spell. And yep, it's okay, that's what it did. So
so this level of ambiguity of your abilities is an intentional design choice then.
I think so.
Okay.
Because and I beat the first level. There was like a first boss, and it was pretty interesting in the ways that I fought it so far. And you have to use all your different powers, and you can level up whatever you use more of. But I'll have to see where this goes. My problem with Mr. Shifty was that a lot of the combat and a lot of the enemies were a little repetitive. I want to see if this game avoids that, and if it starts throwing me fresher challenges as I get. If I still fight the same guys in 3 levels, that could be one thing that hinders it.
Honestly, the air of mystery and ambiguity that's going on within the game seems like it would be the biggest driving force for me to continue with the game.
Yeah,
I feel like that type of
right now.
Yeah, I feel like that type of mystery wasn't necessarily present in Mr. Shifty, so you really had to rely on the pure gameplay elements of the game. And
I want to say I feel like it's almost like Wizard of Oz if they never showed Dorothy like in the real world.
Oh, okay, interesting. So maybe a multi-dimensional experience, but you didn't know that there was another dimension going on.
Kind of like that. That's what I'm thinking so far. Again, I'm not going to say anything more about it, but it's definitely pulled me into that. And again, the graphic style is beautiful. It's my favorite type of pixel art. It kind of reminds me of that was that Super Brothers Sword and Sorcery game?
Right. And the color scheme of the game really speaks to me. It reminds me of Bastion or Transistor, and I just love that blue, teal, neon color scheme, and I really dig indie games that take advantage of that.
Yeah, and the glowy effects on all your weapons are very like. Ooh. Anyway, definitely check out some screenshots of that if you guys can take a chance, because that's really the graphic style and the action so far is what sells it. But the mystery is what keeps you playing.
Box quote.
All right, so that is what we've been playing. Let's dive into the news. Let's talk about what's new and upcoming and all that jazz.
All right, let's do it.
Ready for the news rundown. Okay, here we go.
All right, let's go.
So we got an update to ARMS this week. Nothing major. They just had a few little bug fixes here and there. A few little exercise modes were added and stuff like that.
Honestly, I would kind of argue that this is a bit of a big deal. There's a lot of balance tweaks to each of the characters and some of the ARMS that make it that really improves a few elements that seemed a little iffy with some of these characters.
Okay. They did, it does look like they made a little adjustments, like Master Mummy's dash speed was increased, which is probably important because he's a slow guy already, but he needs to get in close, so that might, balance him out a little bit.
Right, and I play Bite and Bark, and with this new update, they were able to get Bark to get up more quickly, which is one of the biggest problems I've had with the character in the past.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so they definitely recognized these little bits of the shortcomings of each of these characters, and maybe buffing their weaknesses a little bit, which is nice. They didn't do this to every single character, but the ones that needed a bit of an upgrade got something.
The only reason I call it not a huge one is because people are always looking for the new characters. And this one doesn't have a new character, but they did say the next update will add a new character. So I guess after these little fixes and the tweaks there, we can look forward to possibly in a couple of weeks, maybe another character will be joining the roster. And actually, there is maybe some hints regarding who the new characters might be, or at least maybe what their theme might be, thanks to some data miners who have been digging into the code of the game. And they just came up with a bunch of nicknames, because like the files just have a bunch of, code names that we use for characters. Most of them seem like names that are for characters already there. Like they have a RNA and they have a Chain Man, which is probably Ninjara. Noodles, which is for Min. Yeah. But there were some that looked interesting, like Plant, Scroll, Sumo, Surprise, and Sweet. So possibly we'll be getting like a Plant Man coming soon, or some magical character, or a few other. I don't know how the Sumo would work, but
well, who knows? It might work like E Honda and Street Fighter and have just extensible, like slightly extended arms. Well, we'll see. We'll see. But maybe. It's cool that people were able to dig into the code and find these things. And some people might consider it spoilers. And so we won't dig in that much further.
Yeah.
So there's also a Zelda Breath of the Wild update. 1.31 updates, which fixes some issues people had with the Master Trials. Have you been able to delve into any of the Master Trials, Casey?
No, I barely got to. I put Zelda back in. I put what's it called back in my GameFly. I put Cave Story, sent that back to GameFly this morning. I was like, okay, time to catch up on some Breath of the Wild. Maybe I'll get back to Ganon or whatever. And then after I got to work, they sent me the code for Phantom Trigger, and I'm like, well, I gotta play this today before the show. So I started playing Phantom Trigger. So I couldn't get any further in Zelda yet.
So it looks like there was a bit of a bug regarding certain items or certain enemies not counting towards the completion of Master Mode. So they fixed that issue, and they even included the ability to get in-game items from browsing in the news channel.
And now there's a new news channel called The Legend of Zelda, Tips from the Wild. And accessing that will let you get certain game items, and that should be open as of posting, so you could check that out.
Yes, it's really cool that they're actually giving incentive to hop into the news channel and check out what's going on there. So
yeah, it's pretty smart. Pretty smart.
I'm excited to see what other games can implement that type of functionality. I don't think this has been done anywhere else so far.
Yeah, that is an interesting integration of system features that I cannot think of anything else that has done something similar. I saw a good interview, actually. I just want to bring up that Game Informer was talking to some of the people, Junichi Masuda for the Pokemon series about the Switch Pokemon games. And they kind of towed the line on most of the same things they said before. They kind of clarified what they were talking about. They said before, we want to see how people use the Switch. And it sounds like from this, they clarified they meant, are people playing it mostly on the go, or are people playing it mostly as a console? And they kind of want to customize the game to whatever play mode people seem to, favor with it.
Right. So you know what that means, Casey? We should get everyone to play in portable mode, so they would just port the freaking normal Pokemon RPG mode, and it just so happens to have console capabilities.
Yeah, well...
Yeah, my biggest fear is that I guess people are playing on console mode mostly, and then they bring over something like Pokemon Battle Revolution, or a neutered RPG like Pokemon Colosseum XD.
The only fear I have, if it's mostly focused on console type of gameplay, is that it'll take away the social aspect, the way that people try to just play or meet on the road or wherever they are, that kind of face-to-face competition. If it's just something that is focused on sitting at home and playing it online, that kind of would steal, I think, a lot of the spirit from the game. Like, the most trading I want to do online is either with people I have friends with already, or like the Wonder Trade system, where it's just some random thing in the aether, you know?
Right. Or GTS is still a pretty nice feature, but yeah.
I'm 50-50, but yeah, I can feel that. I can feel that.
Yeah.
They did also state, though, this will be different than before. It sounded like they were emphasizing they are going for
something unique.
Yes. And as the interview went on, they were answering people's questions from forum posts. Most of the questions were, why don't you make a game from the Switch? Why, when's Pokemon coming to the Switch? And every time they just kind of reacted like, we are making that. But one comment, and they just kind of glossed over this. Maybe they were just joking. Maybe they're just repeating the same things they were saying before. But one of the forum posts was, all you have to do is make Pokemon in a large, open-ish world and put it on a console, done. And they said, we're working on that. So large, openish world, that's a little different than usual Pokemon.
Oh my gosh. Imagine an open world Pokemon game, Casey.
That's what I'm thinking. It could be like one where you actually can go in multiple directions right off the bat, or after maybe like a little bit of a path, but then the world just kind of opens up to you.
Right, and just the possibilities of that would be incredible. If they set it so that gyms would scale based on the level of your Pokemon, you can approach each of the gyms in whatever order you want. Mm-hmm. Ride Pokemon can come back, and that could be how you explore the different areas. Yeah, I honestly didn't think about an open world Pokemon game that much until this was brought up in the forum post.
Yeah, I feel like they picked the forum post that they wanted to answer, and these went way back. Like some of these were from years ago.
Yeah.
So they obviously, I feel they obviously picked this one because of how it was worded, so that they could confirm this. And again, I don't think they focused on this in the interview. They just kind of went over it haha, yeah, they're just saying we're making whatever you wanted. But I think that's a pretty big little indication right there.
But we shouldn't necessarily put all of our eggs in this basket.
No, yeah, definitely not.
But it's a great way to bring Pokemon into the next generation. And they succeeded with Breath of the Wild. Nintendo was able to pull that off.
Yeah, I think it'd be a lot easier to scale difficulty in an RPG-style game than it is to scale difficulty in an action game like Zelda.
Breath of the Wild. Yes, yeah. Exactly. So I have confidence that Game Freak would be able to pull an open world-ish Pokemon game on the Switch.
So here's hoping for that.
Yeah, here's hoping for that for sure. Though, what I'm also hoping for is a physical release for Sonic Mania on the Switch. Now, when Sonic Mania was first released, or first announced, we really only heard that they were going to be released as a digital copy. You can only get digital copies so far. Now, looking at some listings on GameStop, apparently there are hints at a physical release for the game. And we don't know if this is anything confirmed, but apparently GameStop Italy has a physical listing for the game.
Yeah, so something, for people who prefer it that way, and maybe get some extra My Nintendo points that way too.
Yeah.
We did get an update for Splatoon 2 over the weekend, and that added the Splooshomatic gun. Have you tried this one out?
I did. It's not my style, honestly, but it's definitely something I can see people enjoying.
It's kind of a short range, I want to say shotgun blast. It's more of a...
It's definitely a very high firing rate gun, but it's such a small range to do it.
It's just barely better than melee range.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. And it's not my style, but it's something that people can really take advantage of in sneaky ways.
It sounds like a weapon that's good for someone who likes to charge in, like, right into close range, and maybe you're not big on aiming, but this game, it's not accurate anyway, so you just kind of, like, shoot wildly, and whoever gets hit by it will probably die.
If you haven't tried it, Casey, you might like this weapon. If you like the Octobrush, maybe this is a very similar to the Octobrush's waggy shots.
Maybe. I gotta say, I've started. I just got the piece of equipment that gives me stealth swimming, so that no one can actually see me when I'm like moving around in the ink.
So you're becoming a Splatoon ninja, aren't you?
Yeah. I have been. That's we had a thing where when we were playing at the last SwitchFest, they were calling me like a Jedi Knight showing up out of nowhere like that. So we started everyone just started going yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. I dig it. Yes. Confirmed Octobrushes or lightsabers.
Yes, basically.
Yes.
Slime San is a platformer that came out recently and has been pretty well received so far. And
it's Slime San.
Yes, Slime San. And this game, when it was on Steam, had an expansion called Blackbird's Kraken. And they just announced that it will actually be getting this expansion on the Switch for free at a later date.
Oh, okay. That is a big deal.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. People are really liking this game. It's kind of a silly like look, like, you know, you're these slimes in this like, you know, low res kind of, you know, pixel graphics world, but it has solid platforming action, and now there's this whole other set of content that will be available for Switch players, no additional charge.
Right. I really dig the color scheme of this game. It's a dark, well, I don't know what color that is, like a blue-green backgrounds with bold white pixel lines, and it really pops, and I like the color contrast here.
And have you seen this thing, the new 8-bit do? Yeah, the control stick.
Yes, so apparently there's an NES 30 arcade stick for the Nintendo Switch being released by 8-bit do, and it looks awesome. I kind of want to try this out for fighting games or arcade games on the Nintendo Switch. Mm-hmm. In the past, people who are competitive fighting game players prefer not to use wireless methods for their control schemes because there might be a bit of input lag. But for a more casual competitive player like me, I think this is the bee's knees, Casey.
But what I like about this controller is it looks like the old NES Advantage. It actually kind of, I mean, everything they do has that retro look, but this really does look like an NES controller on like steroids here. It's
honestly, cool. Yeah, I'm loving both the aesthetic and how the positioning of the buttons on this thing.
Yeah.
I would get 2 of these and make a Switch a really strong arcade console.
I hear you. And at $80, that's not too bad for these kind of sticks. And it gives the Hori joystick a little bit of a run for its money.
Exactly.
So you can pre-order it now, but it will be shipping August 20th. So you can jump on that.
Yeah, I'm really considering this.
Down the pipe. All right, so we have a few release dates we got here, or some other announcements. Axiom Verge is getting an October 17th release we have now.
Now, Chess Ultra is coming out this year too, and surprisingly a lot of people on the Discord chat are super hyped about this game.
Oh, really? I just was reading about this today, and I was actually thinking in my head, like, could I actually get, like, the people in our chat room into a chess game?
Yeah. When a few days ago, people linked this video in the newsfeed section of our Discord, and I kind of like built a little bit of hype up, and a lot of people are interested in doing a tournament for Chess Ultra.
Oh, I'd be
when
down.
It comes out. I expressed that it has to be explicitly people who are regulars within the community, because I don't want someone that's like a grandmaster just come in and sweep everyone. Right. But yeah, I would love to have a tournament for this game.
Yeah, so this is just a really high production value chess game. It looks like I watched the trailer, and they have
It's like so classy.
Whole environments. Yeah, very classy appearance. All different chess sets, some with like flaming effects on them and, weird locations. Really good classy music going on and just, online play. I'm sure it'll have asynchronous, so it'll just be a thing you could turn on, make your move, go back to playing your next game. Whenever you hit Wi-Fi, you could send your next move to your opponent. I don't know. As long as it's a good price for a chess game, I think that it's something I would definitely pick up and I would like to play. I'm just still saddened that they never brought Chess 2 over to anything else. Honestly,
yeah,
that was only on the what was it? The Ouya? Was that Android game system? The Ouya is the only system that got Chess 2 that I liked.
Yeah, but this game is surprisingly hype, Casey. We should definitely pursue this further.
You know what? I'm not like a huge chess guy, but I was listening to a chess podcast for a little while just to kind of like, I said this, it's really good just to get the idea of like, you think esports players in our world are hardcore. Nobody is a hardcore gamer than like, the competitive chess people. Yeah. And so, I just kind of wanted to get a feel for what that society was like.
So fun fact, I was the president of my college chess club for a while. I did local competitions and I contributed to a chess podcast sometime around when I was contributing to the Pokemon.
Oh, times. Very cool. I mean, nerdy as heck, but cool.
Yes.
What the heck? Let's see. That should be coming before the end of the year. So what the heck? Let's go for that, guys. Let's have a more sophisticated tournament in the future.
Yeah, it's not going to be as big as one of Nintendo's heavy hitters. It'll be a small tournament, but I'd love to compete with you guys.
So we got official confirmation for Thimbleweed Park coming out in September. And this is, again, the point-and-click adventure game by the people who did Day of the Tentacle. I played it. It was on Vita, I think, also, but I played it on the iPhone. Great humor. Kind of has that... what was that game? Not that series, the X-Files kind of feel to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this game, Brawl Out, is apparently coming to the Switch later this year. Have you ever heard of Brawl Out, Casey?
Not before I saw this trailer.
Oh, okay. So Brawl Out is it's a practically blatant Super Smash Bros. Clone. It was released on Steam earlier this year, and it's very much designed for competitive multiplayer. So it doesn't really bother with that party free-for-all crazy atmosphere of the normal Smash. It's it has that mode, but it's definitely tailored for a more hardcore audience. And this is something that people can pick up on the Switch later this year to fill in the gap until the real Super Smash Brothers comes out.
And it has its own little, I don't know what other characters, I know that it looks like they're trying to go for a lineup of characters from, I don't know if they're original characters mostly.
Yes.
But I know that they have the character from Hyper Light Drifter coming into it.
Right, exactly. It looks like it is a set of original characters, and they're trying to pull the different character archetypes from Smash and bringing it into their own engine. Okay. And but then they brought in Hyper Light Drifter guy, and it looks like they might be trying to pull more indie characters into this game to make it an indie Super Smash Brothers.
Okay. I'm gonna call this genre of games from now a Smash likes because
Smash likes.
Yeah, I want to call them Smash likes because obviously, it's true to call it a Smash clone, but I do feel like there's room for more games in this genre. Yes. Since, at least Smash it was a pioneer in a new type of fighting game, and now it's fair that others try to explore that space.
Right, and I believe the quote-unquote accepted term for this genre is platform fighter.
Platform fighter. Okay, I'm going to stick with Smash-like, but okay.
The term they use is platform fighter. Okay. The reason why I say that this is very much more of a blatant rip-off of Smash is because they use very similar physics and the same percentage-based life system that Smash does.
Okay.
There are other platform fighters out there that are similar mechanics and physics-wise to Smash, but don't use that same health system.
We got an announcement for Dragon Quest Builders 2, and the first gameplay footage was revealed. So we didn't get Dragon Quest Builders 1 on the Switch, or did we? No, we didn't. But getting 2, we could finally dive into this whole like Minecraft Dragon Quest hybrid gameplay. That is, I'm curious to see how many of the Minecraft community we have would be jumping at the chance to add a little bit more of an actual RPG to their flavor of that.
Right. Honestly, I don't see why not. If people are interested in Minecraft and they really want to play with more of this style game on the Switch, this game was pretty well received in Japan, and I feel like it would be worth a shot.
These are 2 games that are interesting only for their interaction, and I just like this kind of thing. I feel like I would like to see more games that have this kind of symbiotic relationship. So these are only in Japan, but Champion Jockey Special is a horse racing game where they have the motion controls where you have to use your riding crop and ride, to maneuver and stuff like that. And that's one thing. And then there's another game coming out the same day called Winning Post 8, which is more of a management sim game where you raise horses and, you have to breed them for races. And you can actually do 2 things. One, you can have your horses from Winning Post 8 transferred into the jockey game so you can ride them in races. And jockeys that get certain experience in that game can be transferred to Winning Post 8 to raise horses for you.
Interesting. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just I just wanted to note this cool symmetry for these games.
I feel like, they could probably just mash that together into one game, but
it's totally different gameplay.
Yeah,
you might not care about a management sim game of raising horses. Maybe you have a friend who likes raising horses who wants to give you their horses and then you give them jockeys.
Yeah, I was about to say, I definitely want to see how they integrate with each other. If it's a wireless connectivity thing that requires 2 switches, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, if I could pass the horses that I raised to you, Casey, so you can race it in your games and pass your jockey to me in Winning Posts, I think that's something that's an interesting route to take for games.
Yeah, a lot of options for that there in the future for other games to do something similar. I wouldn't mind. We got a date for Rime, or at least a month. Rime will be coming on Switch in November, and so and the price point is going to be $30. It looks like. Well, that's the eShop. Oh, for the eShop version, while the retail edition is going to cost $40. That's actually a pretty big difference in the 2 versions prices, but
right. I believe the retail version is going to come with a soundtrack download code, so
okay,
that makes a way to justify their higher price. And I believe it's been already released that Rime will be out November 14th in North America and November 17th in Europe.
Okay. And you know what, though? We're always looking for that, price cut for the digital versions anyway, so I think that's just nice to have the option for, the cheaper, buy the same game, just get it at a lower price. And we just found out today that Super Meat Boy is coming to the Switch.
Yeah, and we talk about this game a lot, and it wasn't even announced to be on the Switch until just now, so...
Yeah, it's just such a,
culture. It's a very prominent game in the platforming genre that it's hard not to reference it in the indie space.
Yeah, and it set up a lot of other games that took what it did and kind of
made
their own iterations of it. And so it's a super hard as nails platformer where you're a block of meat running through, screens of dangers, and you're going to die 100 times before you get past the stage, but it's fast and fun.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so the new releases this week, we have Strikers 1945 and Gun Barish. And Strikers 1945 is, in fact, a shmup with kind of a mix of World War II and super cyber laser shoots.
And Gun Barrack, it looks to be a Arkanoid Breakout style game where you move a paddle side to side, hitting a ball in really weird and interesting environments.
Okay, cool. Severed, that is a game I played again on iPhone and is a really nice adaptation for the Switch. This is a first-person RPG where the action or the way you attack enemies is you have to swipe on the screen for where you're cutting them, and you have to try to cut at like weak points, and you will sever limbs from enemies, or they'll react in different ways to some hits, and you have to kind of like, find their weaknesses, and then parts of them get ripped off and they become equipment for you later. It's kind of grotesque in like concept, but the execution and the actual art is still kind of beautiful, and so you overlook the fact that you're
pretty grotesque what you're doing.
Yeah, like your character's like missing an arm, but you can just like you attach to your stump like parts of monsters that you've slayed, and and that's like how you equip things. So even though it's kind of like sick like that, it's still like really well done, and it doesn't feel like grotesque. It's just like a nice, pretty, clean art style.
So it reminds me of a mix between Infinity Blade and Fruit Ninja on.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad comparison.
Yes.
We also got Flip Wars.
Yeah, we've talked about that plenty in the past.
Mm-hmm.
It's
multiplayer.
Multiplayer platform color flipping action, which kind of feels reminiscent to Bomberman in a way.
Yeah. And Ironcast, that finally came out this week.
Yes, Ironcast. That's the steampunk mecha puzzle fighting game.
And next week we have a couple of big titles. For one, you're going to get your hands on Sonic Mania.
Sonic Mania. Yes, I am excited for this game. I'm so glad that they're going back to the classic era of Mario, the classic era of Sonic games back on the Sega Genesis. So, yes, I will be reviewing that.
Yes, that is just basically, they've just made a new version of the old style Sonic. And Troll and I will be coming out, and this is the co-op puzzle solving game. One player, or one player can control both, but you can both split up, where you control this big troll who's big and strong, and this person who is small and fast, and you have to get through kind of like an Ico type of game where both characters have something useful that you need to use to get through the puzzles and challenges.
I don't know, man. The girl in Eco felt pretty useless sometimes.
Okay, let me think of it then more like Last Guardian.
Yes, there you go.
With a less cute sidekick.
Yes, and I definitely enjoy asymmetrical co-op games, so this might be worth a shot.
And let's go into the Community Pulse then, and let's wrap this show up here.
Let's do it. Community Pulse.
All right, leading off our Community Pulse for this week, we have Peter J. Ortiz, who wrote us, and this is actually an interesting point he brought up, with the recent news on the Nintendo World Championships taking place in New York City, October 7th, with qualifiers taking place within the coming weeks. What games do you think will be featured on the main show? Yes, this is actually a piece of news. The Nintendo World Championships, they're bringing that back again. And this was pretty popular last time they did it.
Yeah. Is that something that you're going to try to attend, Casey?
I'll see, if it works out time-wise. But around that time, I might be going out of the country. So I might not be able to participate. But we'll see.
All right. But his question, what games do you think will be featured on the main show? I have no doubt that Splatoon is going to be featured at some point.
Yes, definitely. I think ARMS is going to be very prominent because that's a little easier for the one player to, shine in that.
Right, and this is a good platform for them to push that game towards a bit more popularity, because I know it's kind of the neglected stepchild of Nintendo Switch's releases so far, and I feel like it definitely deserves more attention than it's getting.
Yeah, I mean, definitely those two. Is there anything that we're not thinking of? I mean, maybe some classic games, like they sometimes just do point rushes. Maybe they'll do like a Sonic Rush thing, like who could beat a stage in the fastest time.
I think they might feature Puyo Puyo Tetris.
Puyo Puyo Tetris, that sounds great, yeah.
That's something that's universally understood, and it's on the console, so I think that might work.
Now I'm starting to suspect that Peter asked this only so he could figure out what he needs to practice to win.
No, we are withholding this information now.
What if they did like, The Wizard, and then like at the end of the contest they reveal a new game,
Super Mario Odyssey, do a
that no one knew
run.
was existing.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah, like a new game that like no one even knew they were going to release, and that's the game you finally have to compete in for the finals.
That would be incredible. I doubt it, but
I honestly think that would be a great stunt for them to pull.
Yeah, I doubt it, but it isn't out of the realm of possibility for Nintendo, which is the best part.
Yeah.
So Monty from the Discord chat said, "Is Monster Hunter Double Cross worth going through a language barrier to be able to play through the Japanese version, or is a demo as far as you will go?" It really depends on whether you're into the Monster Hunter series already. I feel like if you want to get into the game, you really want to get it in a language you can understand, because there already is quite a bit of a initial learning curve for that franchise.
That's true. I will say, though, for most of the people listening to the show, it definitely will not be worth it. But for some of us, Monster Hunter is a lifestyle game, right? It's a game that you play exclusively, and you don't. Most of the people listening to this, I assume, play lots of different games, and they, split their time relatively evenly. But Monster Hunter hardcores who play it 90% of the time and maybe play another game just as a breather between hunts, it's worth it for them. And I used to be in that camp, actually. For a while, I was playing a import version of on my Vita, not on my Vita, on my PSP a while back, just to get some games in that I just couldn't get access to. And, I adapted. I got enough play out of it that it was worth it. That wouldn't be true, obviously, today. But for most of you, so I say no. But if you're really already a fan and you think you're going to play this game exclusively, yeah, you can do it.
Right.
All right. I'll close this one out with this one. And Sergio B64 wrote, "Would it be better if all Splatoon 2 modes were available all the time?" I am split on this. I go back and forth, and it frustrates me that the modes are set and you're locked into one mode at a certain time of day, at least depending on which, whether you're playing ranked or league or whatever. I get it. It probably is better for the community at large in that everyone is not split amongst smaller groups that just play this one mode, and then maybe you can't find opponents because, I only want to play, Turf Wars, or not Turf Wars. What's the one with the Splat Zones? But maybe that's like the least popular mode, and you're only playing the same people all the time. And as the game gets older, that'll become a bit more of a problem. Since everyone's always playing the same modes and they're not split up, you're more likely to find more competition.
Right. That's probably their logic for it, and I can definitely understand why this is the direction they went. But at the same time, there are just some times when you really would rather prefer to play a certain mode that's unavailable during your current availability schedule, and right. that can get kind of annoying.
I guess you always have the option of doing a private match room and just getting people to play the mode you want in private. It's a little more work.
Yeah, and you don't technically get credit from those,
right.
So it might feel like a bit less of an experience. But if you guys are clamoring to play a specific mode and you don't really care too much about progression, yeah, hit up the Discord chat. We might be able to get something going for a private match.
Yeah, it frustrated me when I'm trying to get that B- rank I needed to hit league mode, and which I did, but after that, once I hit that, it's probably not going to be something I'm going to worry about. And you always have the choice. Am I going to play Turf Wars in the regular mode? Am I going to play whatever? And they always have league mode and ranked mode are two different types of games going on at any given time. So you can always kind of switch between those two depending on which games are available.
Yes.
So let's call it a necessary evil or a fair trade-off they made.
Yeah, the fair trade-off is probably the best way to put it, because I don't think it's evil in a sense that it has good intentions with its design.
Right. A lot of people are just willing to write off, say, oh, this is just a stupid choice. I hate it. It's pointless. There's a point. I might disagree with it at times, but I give them the credit that they didn't just do it because they're stupid. They did it because there's a there's a reason behind it, a thought-out reason.
Right.
All right. Well, that was our show.
You guys definitely check out our Patreon. That's patreon.com/theswitchcast. Also, please review us on the Apple Podcast app or wherever you listen. Visit our awesome Discord community. If you want to join a non-trolly, very friendly and supportive community, we should have a link in the show notes for that. And email us via casey@theswitchcast.com or jv@theswitchcast.com.
You can also follow us on Twitter @theswitchcast, which is a great way to be alerted whenever we have podcasts posted or any other big events like the tournament signups that are coming up soon. Instagram, a shout out quickly to Abe Martinez, who has been running our Instagram for as long as we've had it. He keeps it posted with lots of pictures, not only the ones that we have, but pictures from the community, and it's pretty fun to watch. We have a great Facebook group, a lot of great conversations going on there, lots of news and other posts placed there. And the SwitchCast friends list, which is linked to in the show notes. It's on the YouTube page as well. Thank you, HeatleyBros, for this theme music. And until next time,
switch it up.